afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of Winchester City Council's Planning Committee, taking place in the Walton Suite of Winchester Guildhall. It is Wednesday, the 24th of September 2025, and the time is 2 p.m, and this is the afternoon session of today's meeting. My name is Councillor Jane Rutter, and I'm Chair of the Planning Committee. Around the table, we have the other elected members of the committee and my Vice Chair for today's meeting, which is Councillor Gordon Smith. We are supported today by a number of officers: Simon Avery, our Principal Planning Officer, Daniel Lucas, our Legal Advisor. The case officer for this item is Rose Chapman, and we also have Matthew Watson from Democratic Services, who supports the committee and operates the recording equipment. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded to the Council's YouTube channel. Subtitles are available, and advice on how to turn these on is set out on our website. I need to remind you all to ensure your mobile phones, and I'm going to do that myself as well. Your mobile phones and any other electronic devices are on silent or preferably turned off entirely. In the unlikely event that it is necessary to evacuate the building, the fire alarm will sound. Please follow all the instructions given to you by our team. Please make sure you look at the handout provided on your chairs or on the information slides displayed as you walked in for further guidance about this meeting. To ensure the smooth running of the meeting, I ask that nobody calls out from the back of the room during the proceedings. In accordance with our public speaking protocols, those who have registered to speak will be able to address the meeting for their allotted time. If there is any disruption of the proceedings and the work of the committee is not respected, it may be necessary to temporarily adjourn the meeting. Finally, can I welcome members of the public to the meeting? Those of you who have registered to speak, I will call you forward when it is your turn to make your contribution. Members of the committee may ask you questions of clarification, so please remain at the microphone until after members' questions. The microphone is turned on by pressing the button on the base of the unit, and a timer will appear on the screen to remind you of your remaining time. So, turning to this afternoon's agenda, we just have one item, which is item 11 on the agenda, which is 2402804 FUL, which is for the solar farm planned at Titchfield Lane, Wickham in Hampshire. And our presenting officer is Rose Chapman. So over to you, Rose. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. If I can just draw your attention to the update sheet, where we have consolidated the information on cumulative development and put that all into one paragraph. So in this case, we have the red line plan. It's a very large site. As in my report, I have tried to split this into 3 specific areas. So the northern area located at the point of the cursor here. So these are the northern parcels, parcels 1 to 5. In the centre, these are the eastern parcels, parcels 6 to 8. And then at the bottom, these 2 parcels 9 and 10 are the southern parcels. Parcels 1 to 5 are located within Shedfield Parish boundary. The rest of the parcels 6 to 10 are located within Wickham and Knowle Parish area. The A334, the Botley Road, you can see at the point of the cursor, runs here. Titchfield Lane, which you can see at the point of the cursor, runs here. And Biddonfield Lane runs at the point of the cursor here. So just to give you an idea of the various constraints, this is an aerial view. So in the northern area, you have Raglington Solar Farm, which is an existing solar farm located in the centre of parcels 1 to 5 at the point of the cursor. in this area, there are a number of sites of importance to nature conservation, so sinks, including Crooked Row, Hallcourt Wood, Biggs Copse, Dagwell Copse and Triangle Row. For the eastern parcels, 6 to 8. In terms of sinks, we have Red Hill Copse and Tanker Hill Copse. Around parcel 9, we have Hangman's Copse and Round Copse. Parcel 10 does not have any sinks immediately nearby. However, the railway line does run at the point of the cursor that you can see here. There are a number of public right-of-ways, which I will go into a little bit more detail in a second. One of which is Wickham 501 that you can see at the point of the cursor here and runs adjacent to parcel 10. And there is a line of polygons that you can just about see at the point of the cursor at the bottom of the screen that go across parcel 10. So, as I mentioned, there are a number of public rights of way, most of which are impacted by the eastern central parcels. These are highlighted in yellow, and you'll see that there's one that bisects parcels 6 and 7. This screen is so you can appreciate the relationship with the South Downs National Park, which is highlighted in green over here. It's approximately 65 metres away from the edge of parcel 8. So from this location here, that's approximately 65 metres. So looking a little bit closer at the various parcels, this is parcels 1 to 5. So each of the parcels is set back from the red line so that there is some buffer space. You can see some green lines along the edges in various colours. These indicate additional planting, and the dots indicate additional biodiversity enhancements, such as bird boxes, bee pillars, and hibernums, I think. For this one, we've got Crooked Row Copse located here. We have Biggs Copse and Dagwell Copse located in this location. Hallcourt Wood is located at the bottom here to the south of parcel 2. And Triangle Copse is located here at the point of the cursor between parcels 2 and 5. Raglington Farm Solar Park, which is existing, is located in the centre. There is an existing access from the A334, the Botley Road here, which is proposed to be used for the main access for this site as well. And this would be retained as the main point of access for Raglington Farm as well. So for the central eastern parcels, as before, there is setbacks between the red line plan, the red line edge, sorry, and the arrays that were coming forward. There is proposed mitigation planting along the edges. For this one, you can see the proposed diversion of the public right of way that runs between parcels 6 and 7. There is a listed building, Little Park Mansions, which is located at the point of the cursor here, which is highlighted in my report. And then these are parcels 9 and 10. So as I mentioned previously, there are setbacks along from the red edge of the red line with planting. In the case of parcel 10, which is on the right hand side over here, the northern part of this parcel is biodiversity mitigation land. You can see the main substation that will be connected to the district, but the point of connection for the electricity board will be from there. You can see the line here at the point of the cursor. These are the existing line of polygons, and the public right of way is at the point of the cursor here. So each set of parcels will have a small substation, and these are the proposed elevations here that you can see on the left hand side. On the right hand side is the example for the standard CCTV pillars that will be included. These are proposed to be spaced approximately 50 metres apart along the edge of the fenced off areas. So we have some more proposed plant elevations for the spare parts containers and switchgear containers. And then at the bottom, you can see the proposed deer fencing that will be around the edges of the arrays. And these are proposed to have some mammal gaps that you can see just at the bottom corner for other species to access, such as rabbits and hedgehogs. So at the top here, we have an example cross-section of the arrays. So they will be positioned so that there won't be any overlap and shadowing caused, so that they will be maximum light received. At the bottom, this is a more detailed indication of what the proposed substation would be like in parcel 10. So as highlighted at our site visit yesterday, some of the parcels have quite significant level changes. So this shows a cross section specifically around parcels 6 and 7 that you can see at the dotted line at the top here where the cross section is, and this cross section specifically at the top. So in the middle, on the left hand side, we have Titchfield Lane. We then have the setback, the proposed planting, the deer fence, the proposed access track, and then another gap before the arrays begin. And you'll see at the bottom here that the arrays are positioned slightly further apart to accommodate the hill. Here we have the proposed construction compounds. There are 3 proposed, 1 for each of the sections. So at the top on the left hand side is the construction compound for parcels 1 to 5, located in parcel 1. At the bottom on the left hand side is the construction compound located in parcel 7 that would serve parcels 6 to 9. And at the bottom is the construction compound for parcel 10. To give you an idea of the routing, so the northern route highlighted in green at the point of the cursor here, that would come off at junction 7 of the M27 along the A334 to parcel 1 and the construction compound there. It would also go down to parcel 7. The southern route, located from from junction 10 off the M27 going up the A32 and the A334 to parcel 7, where it would then be distributed to parcels 8 and 9. You will be aware that the roads accessing parcels 8 and 9 are narrow, and therefore smaller vehicles at a maximum of 7.5 tonnes would transfer the goods from parcel 7 to parcel 8 and 9 to limit the impact on those roads. Parcel 10 would come off at junction 9 of the M27, down the A27, and then up Titchfield Lane to reach parcel 10. As I mentioned earlier, there is a proposed change to the public right-of-way Wickham 14 that currently runs between parcel 6 and 7. So the green path here highlighted is the current adopted route, and the proposed route is shown in pink here. And then I've got brief few slides showing the proposed cable routing. So this starts off at the substation at parcel 3 and would travel along the access route, the northern access route for Shedfield Equestrian Centre, down the A334 before turning down Biddonfield Lane, travelling down Biddonfield Lane until it meets the corner of parcel 6. In parcel 6, it goes around the edge through parcel 7. It would go underneath the A334 and into parcel 8. And then it would also go down at a point of access just here, down Titchfield Lane. Comes all the way down Titchfield Lane. From parcel 9, it would come from the substation down there, down Biddonfield Lane, where it would meet the Titchfield branch up here. So down Titchfield Lane, it would then come off the road through the farmlands and down to parcel 10, where the connection to the local energy network is. So if we have here, we have some proposed viewpoints that have been provided. This is of parcel 1. So at point of the cursor, you can see a blue dot just here. This is where the photo is taken. So this road here is the A334, the Botley Road. You can just about see the access for Raglington Solar Farm here as a lighter coloured line. This hedge you can see at the point of the cursor, this is the boundary of parcel 1. So in the centre, we have the proposed outlook from year 1. So you would see where the solar arrays would be positioned. And at the bottom, this is for year 15. You can see that the greenery and additional planting has mostly screened the site. There would be some visibility from the access point at the point of the cursor here that you can see. This is taken from the public right-of-way 14 that runs between parcels 6 and 7. This is looking towards Titchfield Lane. So Titchfield Lane is located at the top here. You can see Cold Harbour Farm located here. In the centre, we have year 1, so the deer fencing and the planting. And at the bottom, we have year 15. So it will be the majority of the site would be screened from the public right-of-way. This is taken from the public right-of-way to the north of parcel 8. So this blue dot here that you can see at the point of the cursor. So this is the viewpoint looking south towards the Wickham crossroads at the A334 and Titchfield Lane intersections, and Blind Lane, sorry, as well. In the centre, you can see year 1, and at the bottom, you can see the year 15 proposals with the mitigation in place, so there would be an impact from that public right of way in terms of visual intrusion. Some of you may be aware that there is a project by Southern Water to connect a pipeline from Havant Springs to Otterbourne. The proposed pipeline is at this point in time proposed to go through parcel 8. So the pink highlighted area at the point of the cursor, this is the approximate location where the pipeline will run. And this has been demonstrated that the panels can either be phased or disassembled and reassembled to accommodate that nationally significant project. Moving on to some photos. This is of parcel 1, so this is the existing access track to Raglington Farm. You can see Crooked Row here, and this is the access goes around the corner behind Crooked Row and onto the A334, so this is looking towards Hall Court. At the bottom, so this is the view from the northeast corner towards the southwest, so you can appreciate some of the level changes. Sticking with parcel 1, this is taken looking across the bottom of the parcel towards Hall Court, and at the bottom this shows the opposite view, shall we say, to the ones I showed you a couple of slides ago, with the viewpoint taken from this approximate location. This is the field access for the next door field, and then we would have planting along this road, this hedge, to bolster that planting and add screening. Moving on to parcel number 2, so you can see Raglington Solar Farm, the existing panels there to give you an idea of what it would look like as well. This is looking to the southwest across the site. On the bottom, this is taken from the southwest corner looking towards the northeast. You can see the existing solar farm at the point of the cursor here. At the top here, this is a view from parcel 2 at the boundary looking towards Hall Court and some of the existing residential uses there. At the bottom, this is a view from the centre of parcel 2 looking directly south across the middle of the field. Moving on to parcel 3, this is from the southwest corner looking across the site, and a similar view a few feet further on looking from the south to the north, looking towards Crooked Row and Big Copse. This at the top is a view from the edge of parcel 3 looking towards Shedfield Equestrian and parcel 4, which would be located here at the point of the cursor. At the bottom, this is a view across parcel 4 towards the existing solar farm. So this is taken from the access track within Shedfield Equestrian. You can see Big Copse and Crooked Copse here. So here we have a view across the other side of parcel 4. This row of trees here is proposed to be removed. They have been assessed as U-class trees, I believe, and they would be removed to accommodate this development. At the bottom, this is the other side. A little bit further on, there is some unauthorised development in this location, and this will be removed to accommodate the solar farm. So looking along the access track where the cable routing is proposed to go, these trees that you can see here in the foreground, these would be retained, and at the bottom there's the line of trees that would be retained. So moving on to parcel 5, this is a view across, looking southwest, and from the other side, looking to the east. This is a view from parcel 6. We were here yesterday, so you will understand that the level changes. These are looking from the south to the north. At the bottom here, you can see the relationship with Cold Harbour Farm. So a view across parcel 6 looking towards parcel 7, and at the bottom here looking across parcel 7 up towards Titchfield Lane, which is at the top of the ridge here. This, you can see the existing desire line of the public right of way that the proposal would formalise, and then at the bottom this is moving on to parcel 8, so looking from the east towards, no, from the west, apologies, looking towards the South Downs National Park. So at the top, this is a view across parcel 8 looking towards the public right of way that I showed you the visuals from earlier. They were taken from approximately this location by the tree. At the bottom, this is a view towards Blind Lane and the South Downs National Park. This is some of the existing gaps within the boundary that would be bolstered as part of this application. Moving on to parcel 9, you will notice that there has been some increase in levels. This has been reported to Hampshire Enforcement, and as a result, the proposal does include a suite of contaminated land conditions. So this is taken from parcel 9, looking from the north towards the south up the hill. And at the bottom, this is the existing access. Finally, looking at parcel 10, you can see the railway line at the edge of the field here, the point of the cursor. And at the bottom, this is the line of the pylons that run across the site. The recommendation is to permit.
Thank you very much, Rose. Right, we now move to public speaking. And our first public speakers are from Wickham and Knoll Parish Council. We have Councillor Broad and Councillor Rapp. If you'd like to come forward. And you have up to 3 minutes. So when you're ready, if you'd like to switch on your microphone, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Wickham Parish Council, I wish to express our concerns about this proposal. Flawed site selection. The sites have not been selected through transparent or evidence-based process. Sites selected because landowners are willing to sell, not because they are the most suitable or least harmful. No alternatives are assessed and no justification given for a project of this exceptional scale, twice the size of the developer's other projects. Dispersing panels over 10 far-flung fields is neither sustainable nor economic, with resulting excessive disruptive cabling stretching from Shedfield Equestrian Centre via Biddingfield and Titchfield Lane to Field 10. It imposes an industrial footprint across 2 villages without any coherent planning. Cumulative impacts are ignored. The application treats impacts in isolation, disregarding 5 other energy schemes already operating or pending approval nearby and other cumulative developments. Granting permission would create a dangerous precedent for a cascade of developments. National policy explicitly requires cumulative effects to be considered, yet these are ignored. Titchfield Lane is a rural environment, not an industrial zone, but these are uncoordinated and transforming it into one. Highway and traffic risks. The construction, sorry.
Sorry?
No, sorry, I meant to move a slide on. I forgot to raise my hand, sorry.
Don't worry, okay. Can you add a couple of seconds,
Yeah.
please, Matthew?
Highways and traffic risks. The construction traffic management plan averages vehicle movements over 52 weeks, peaks of activity. It also fails to account for additional trips moving material from storage to sites. Field 9, accessed only by a narrow single track, is wholly unsuitable for heavy construction traffic. Combined with other schemes, HGV movements could rise to 60 per day on fragile rural roads, posing clear dangers to residents, road users and emergency services. A recent road traffic survey identified 8 pinch points on Titchfield Lane where vehicles cannot safely pass. Damage to landscape, heritage and farmland. Bundling 10 far-flung fields into one application masks the unsuitability of several sites, especially fields 6, 7, 8 and 9. Field 9 in Biddingfield Lane is blighted by unauthorised landfill. The application states it's soil storage, so why is earth moving equipment distributing, levelling and compacting soil over the site? Statutory consultees warn of harm to the countryside character, listed buildings and the South Downs setting. Screening industrial features with hedges ignores real topography and public views. Many of the sites are grade 3A, recognised as best and most valuable farmland, which requires safeguarding and food production. Inadequate community engagement. Only 370 of 3,600 households were notified, producing just 3 feedback forms and 5 emails, less than 1%, and the application has no community benefit. To conclude, we strongly object to this application and urge the planning authority to refuse consent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Broad, is it? Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. Members, do we have any questions or clarification for the Parish Council representative from Wickham? No, you were very clear. Thank you very much indeed for your contribution and for the very comprehensive report that you sent in to us as well, which we all have read in the main report. So thank you for that.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
And now we have from Shedfield, Councillor Ogden and Councillor Byrne. Which one is going to speak? Are you both going to speak or? Again, you have 3 minutes to share between you. And when you're ready, there's no rush. Take your time. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. My name is Francesca Byrne, Councillor from Shedfield, and I've got Councillor Ogden with me today. Firstly, I would like to confirm that our Parish Council do not object to solar schemes that are suitably sited and well screened. Uncontroversial schemes exist in our parish already, and currently we are liaising with another developer with plans for a well-chosen site. However, we do have concerns with this application and its journey to committee. The application was validated within Wickham Parish and community engagement was held there. The applicant presented their scheme to our Parish Council, but there has been no community engagement in our parish, despite 5 of the proposed solar fields being in Shedfield. A handful of our residents near fields 1, 2 and 3 were visited by the applicant's team. We have already made a comprehensive objection, but today I would draw your attention specifically to fields 4, 8 and 9 and public interest. Field 4, part of Shedfield Equestrian Centre, was countryside with TPO woodland known as Upper Dagwell's Copse, not mentioned by the officer, just Dagwell's Copse was mentioned by your officer. It is now industrialised and has been subject to enforcement action. In March 2023, The Planning Inspectorate dismissed the landowner's appeal and upheld your council's action that this land should be restored to countryside. Councillors, please follow the inspector's decision and allow Winchester City Council to implement this decision, including replanting of woodland. Fields 8 and 9, your own landscape team have shared their concerns in February, June and July this year. In essence, they state that they have supported several ground-mounted solar developments due to their, I quote, intelligent siting. But I have serious concerns about the development of these fields. I quote from their July opinion, proposals to screen them suggest that they are in the wrong place. Wickham Festival attracts between 5,000 and 8,000 people per annum. In recent years, it has been held after harvest along Blind Lane. On some years, Field 8 has been used for parking. This will no longer be possible should the application be permitted. On speaking with the promoter just this August, this poses a problem for holding the festival in 2026. So in conclusion, for a variety of reasons, we do not agree that this scheme is in the public interest. Your own landscape team support intelligent solar development, but find Conrad's scheme lacking. Our parish support neat and discreet solar development, not this haphazard scheme connecting random parcels of land with cabling.
I'm afraid that's the end of your 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Members may have questions of clarification for you. Councillor Langford-Smith.
Thank you, Chair. I note in the report that it says that there is no community benefit. Is that the case? Has the developer not offered any community benefit in return for this scheme?
They have only visited the parish council, and we did ask a question of what had happened on other sites, and they merely stated that on occasions they had placed solar panels on school roofs, but no more than that. No further communication.
Well, we'll have an opportunity to ask the developer in the moment. Any further questions of clarification? No? Thank you very much indeed to both of you. And again, thank you very much for your comprehensive comments for our report, which we have read. If you could switch off the mic as you go, thank you. And now we turn to one of the ward councillors, Councillor Cutler. Good afternoon, Councillor Cutler. Councillor Ashwell, I understand you don't want to speak, is that right? Councillor Cutler will deal with it. Okay. Thank you very much. So you have up to 5 minutes, Councillor Cutler. Thank you.
I have my doubts if I'll use 5 minutes. Committee, thanks for the opportunity to speak on this application. I'll speak to you as ward councillor representing some residents' views, but also as someone who lives in the middle of a solar park of the same sort of capacity as this one. So I have some direct experience of the construction phase and also of living with a solar park. And as has already been mentioned, this proposal is unusual in having so many different parcels of land quite widely spread. Most developments of this size consist of larger contiguous plots. So it's therefore very difficult to make an assessment of the value of that land, of the different parcels. They're all of such different types. It's clear that the fringe effects of being close to settlements mean many of the plots have limited value for agricultural purposes, and some suffer from the detrimental effect of horticulture, which in my subjective view is far more detrimental to the landscape than solar panels. However, the 6, 7 and 8 have been continually used for crop production, notwithstanding the plot 8 has in the last couple of years been converted to grassland. Assessing this land purely, its agricultural value purely on what is an outdated land classification model does not, I believe, give a realistic view of the land's inherent agricultural value. The effect of disparate plots on the construction timetable means that construction is likely to cause disruption for up to 5 years. My own experience is that the construction phase can be incredibly disruptive to neighbours, but in the case of the Southwick solar development, it took 9 months to build. I think the developers here are talking to up to 5 years. In particular, I think the need for substantial cabling work because of this disparate nature of the development will be very, very disruptive, particularly in Titchfield Lane and on the A334. I remain unconvinced that an effective traffic management plan can be put in place to reduce the disruption to an acceptable level for over such a long period of time. Additionally, as the Parish Council submission highlights, there are potentially substantial cumulative effects of other concurrent developments in the area. Turning to the post-construction phase of the development, at Southwick we were promised significant biodiversity enhancements which have not materialised. I realise that 10 years on, there are more substantial conditions agreed as part of any application, but I am concerned about the long-term monitoring and suggest that a condition be applied that requires the developer to pay for independent monitoring of the land management requirements over the lifetime of the development. I assume that this also includes a bond to recover reinstatement as a key condition. Finally, I note the concerns about community engagement and longer-term community benefit. This council has a policy of requiring concept master plan for large developments, and I cannot understand why this isn't a requirement of a scheme of this scale. A concept master plan would require substantial consultation and engagement with the community in the early stages of developing a plan. In this case, the level of engagement with the community has been very poor. In terms of community benefit, I understand there's been no substantial offer to the community and feel that an enforceable commitment to a contribution to the community should be negotiated. I hope the committee can take these points on board as part of the deliberations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Members, do we have any questions or clarification for our City Councillor? Councillor Laming.
Thank you, Chair. In your opinion, is this good agricultural quality land for crop production?
Well, I would only really consider the plot 6, 7 and 8 that I would have any sort of knowledge of, and that has been continually cropped as arable land. The problem with land classification, the land classification 1 to 4, which is used so much in these planning applications, is, and I had the same problem at Southwick. It was, class 4, therefore it was non-productive, except that it had been farmed by my family for 50 years and produced quite a lot. These land classifications exist from the 1940s and 50s, and they have little value in measuring the potential agricultural output, simply because techniques have changed so much in the intervening 70 years, and I do find it odd that it's still used and there hasn't been an update on that. So my view on plot 6, 7 and 8 is that they are reasonable arable fields. They wouldn't be the best, but then virtually nowhere in Hampshire has really good quality land. So yes, it is productive agricultural land, those particular parcels.
Councillor Gordon-Smith.
Yes, Councillor Cutler. I seem to remember we had a conversation once down on your farm about the adjoining solar Thistlethwaite, the adjoining solar panels, and you said they had a problem because the original idea had been to put sheep there to crop the grass, but this never worked out, so they had to have teams of people with strimmers to cut it back. Was that, am I recalling the conversation correctly?
I suppose the point I made was that there are often with solar projects various claims made about how the land will be managed. And my experience is that the conditions are never strong enough and there is not enough monitoring to make sure that that happens. So in terms of sheep grazing, what happened to Southwick is that they're too low to the ground and the cabling wasn't secure enough to risk having sheep there. I was talking to the developers here. They said that the standard height that does allow sheep grazing, but I've always been very, very suspicious about the idea of grazing sheep. You have a legal responsibility to check your animals every day. if they're all hiding under panels, unless you've got a very good dog, I don't see how you actually fulfil your legal requirement to look after those animals. But that's probably by the by. My broader point is that whatever conditions are there in terms of managing that land, enhancing biosecurity, unless it's monitored and unless there is a mechanism in place to make sure it's monitored over that 40 years, I have very little faith in it actually being delivered.
Right. Well, thank you for that helpful contribution. I think we've done with our questions of clarification. Thank you very much, Councillor Cutler. We now turn to the supporters. So we have Sharon Queenie and Philip Silk with us this afternoon. Thank you very much for coming along today. You have up to 3 minutes between you, but of course there will be questions of clarification afterwards as well. So over to you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, committee members. I'm here today as applicant's agent for a new solar farm at Titchfield Lane. This proposal represents a significant step towards a sustainable and energy secure future for your district. The application seeks temporary permission for 40 years to install a ground-mounted solar array. This project is designed to generate clean, renewable energy into the local distribution network, meeting the equivalent demand of nearly 12,000 local homes, thereby contributing sustainably to both national and local carbon reduction goals. This places the proposed development firmly in the UK's green energy transition and an opportunity for making a real impact on tackling climate change. A key benefit of this proposal is the commitment to biodiversity net gain. The plans include extensive new planting and habitat creation, which will significantly enrich the local environment. The officer's report highlights that the proposal is not only generating power, but is also enhancing the local natural environment. While some concerns have been raised through the consultation process, the project team has carefully considered and addressed these. The visual impact on the landscape is being actively mitigated through a robust planting scheme, which will mature over time and integrate the solar panels into the local landscape. There will be some filtered views from short stretches of the public right-of-way. Hence, the photomontages have been provided, which shows that views can be substantially mitigated by the proposed planting. There are no direct views within the South Downs National Park where panels can be seen, and although fields 7 and 8 are within the setting of the National Park, they are outside of its boundary. Whilst these fields are considered to be rural in nature, they already hold urban fringe characteristics, such as the A334, views of existing glasshouses and the overhead power lines. The impact on the setting of the National Park has therefore been considered to be low. The project has been designed to continue agricultural use, ensuring land can be used for grazing alongside power generation. This form of landscape management has commonly been used in multiple solar farms across the UK, including the existing solar farm at Raglington Farm. Regarding traffic, a detailed management plan is in place to minimise disruption during construction, with a clear focus on safety on local roads. The project team is also committed to working with the community to ensure that public rights of way remain open and accessible. In essence, the development proposal is an opportunity to generate clean energy, support our environment and play a vital role in the national effort to combat climate change. The officer's recommendation to permit this application is a testament to its strong public benefits, which we believe will far outweigh any perceived harm. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Now I'm sure members will have questions of clarification. Councillor White.
So you mentioned there's obviously a construction management plan that you're doing, and apparently that needs some more detail adding to it. I'm just wondering, obviously there's going to be a lot of disruption in the construction phase. I'm worried about the cumulative effect with other projects as well. So you've got the M27 junction currently happening, and I'm just wondering if your construction management plan is going to include any phasing or any collaboration with those other projects. Otherwise, that could be a huge disruption for the local area with the cumulative effect of the construction and the HGV movements.
Certainly. So when if the members deem to grant planning consent, we will be conditioned to we've already provided an outline construction traffic management plan, and then subject to members' determination, we will get a condition that requires us to provide a detailed construction traffic management plan. And within that, we will have an assessment of cumulatives. And obviously, as those schemes progress through their financial close, then we will have details of their construction programmes. And also it will be fed back to the local community as well to make sure that everybody is aware when movements of significance would happen.
And can I ask about biodiversity monitoring? So do you have a scheme for monitoring the biodiversity of the various plots? And if not, would you be prepared to accept a new condition requiring an independent monitoring of that?
There is a landscape ecological management plan, and again, that will form part of the condition, which can be monitored. And I'll pass to Phil regarding.
Yeah, so as part of all of our schemes, we undertake regular monitoring and landscaping of what we've implemented. We already have operational solar farms where we've implemented the landscaping, and we have teams that go out to the sites regularly to maintain them. So I think under the landscape condition, there'll be a requirement to submit some further details of the exact final planting requirements, and then a maintenance plan to form part of that as well.
Thank you. Can I ask about the decommissioning? I understand it's not reasonable to ask for a bond, but I know that there is some concern that if, for instance, in the future, the company should go bust or whatever, who would be responsible for decommissioning and clearing away all the solar panels and returning the land as the planning conditions require?
Ultimately, the company that's, as in Conrad Energy, that are operating the solar farm would be responsible for that. So we would own the assets and therefore have an obligation with our investors as well to remove them at the end of the 40-year period.
Councillor Langford-Smith.
Thank you. I note that when the project was first put forward, the amount of acreage was 130, and that was to produce the 49.9 megawatts. It's now increased to 170 acres, but with no increase in output. So can you just explain the increase in acreage without an increase in output for me, please?
So we have an export capacity to the grid, which is the 49.9 megawatts. So that's how much we can spill. And then we look at how we size it. So the way the solar profile and the energy production, it obviously doesn't provide all of the full production at the shoulder hours of the day, so early in the morning when the light levels are lower. So this is basically to allow us to maximise the export through the same grid connection. So the actual capacity has always remained the same. It's just the size of the electricity that's generated throughout the day.
Councillor Laming.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a couple of questions here. We heard that your plan to think about having grazing underneath these panels. What's the minimum height that you've got from the panel to the ground?
0.8.
Is that sufficient for an average sheep? Because that doesn't sound enough to me.
That is a standard that has been used, and I believe that that's what's there at the moment, and also have sheep grazing at the current time, or did last time I was on the site visit.
Okay. Now, on the land that we visited in the first instance, where you're putting the panels on the reverse side of the slope, you're obviously going to tilt them that way. Are you going to put in extra foundations to stop the wind when it comes in from the westerly, which is the normal wind direction in that area?
Yeah, subject to receiving consent, then there'll be some work to do, investigation on site investigations and kind of more detailed designs in terms of piling requirements and structurally how we do it. So that will feed into that detail, and then we'll finalise how exactly it will be constructed in terms of depths and anchoring for it and that solution.
Okay. Now we come back to the point that was just made on the power generation. We've got a number of sites that you're linking together. So what's the actual maximum that you're going to be generating at any one time?
The maximum that we can export to the grid is 49.
No, what is the maximum that you're actually generating from the panels?
So-
Because obviously you're going to have a loss of power between the panels because they've got a considerable distance to travel before it gets into the grid.
Yeah. So typically you would oversize a solar scheme by 1.4. So it's between 65 to 70 megawatt peak.
Right, so you're actually putting in more because you've got a longer distance to travel.
Yeah, and the losses, and also that shoulder hours as well.
Okay.
Councillor Gordon Smith first.
Yes, I wonder, there's a solar farm near where I live, and they had a problem during periods of very heavy downpour of runoff causing flooding in adjacent areas. And obviously the runoff characteristics change from being a bare field or a grassed field to having one where, you know, there's extensive, glass panels. I wonder if any thought had been given to that.
The drainage plan does provide some area of soakaway, and effectively what they do is they slow the water through natural swales in order to allow that soakaway in peak storm events. So whilst it is the same amount of water that is falling, obviously, what it requires in peak storm events is a slowing down of that water to allow the same level of infiltration into the ground. So effectively what the drainage plan has done is put in a number of swales which effectively just slow the water down on those peak events in anything that's got a slope, effectively, just to give the water time to soak into the ground and protect the surrounding area.
Councillor Pett, a question of clarification.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just looking at the spread of these 10 sites, it was suggested by another speaker that the construction phase disruption could go on for a particular period of time. Can you give us your candid estimate of how long that disruption will go on for on the A334 and Titchfield Lane, particularly from the cabling as well?
So I believe the speaker mentioned 5 years. That's not the case. Effectively, what happens with the solar panels is obviously there's a period where there's a lot of on-site work, so effectively a lot of setting out. That is very minimal traffic generation because people are on the site setting out. Then you have a situation where you have deliveries to the site, so that will create a peak, if you like, of traffic movements to that particular location. And then obviously then there's a period of construction throughout. So with the solar panels to each site, you will have a certain peak, suggests a large number. I think the application says 4, up to a maximum of 4 a day in certain locations, and that will be producing equipment to the site, and then there will be a period whereby the construction happens, and that can be managed effectively through the construction traffic management plan, just to make sure that there is not a significant number of the same traffic using the same road.
Just to add to that, more of the construction impact would be early on in terms of the delivery and the equipment, putting in the frames into the ground, and then the delivery of the panels. Then once those materials on site, it goes through a phase of lifting those onto the frames and then commissioning that. So more it's wiring and technical, so less kind of large vehicle movements going to site, and more engineers on site doing the connection works and the commissioning of the solar project.
So can I just clarify then, 10 sites in series construction or in parallel construction?
That would form in terms of, we can do it, we're flexible in terms of how we'd actually construct it. That would be part of the construction plan and kind of further management engagement with the highways as well, in terms of coordinating how we move through the road network system as well. We'd use the construction compounds to hold some of the materials as well, so we can just phase the delivery, which allows us to limit how much we're doing. ideally we would progress all of the sites at the same time and move them forwards together, which would give the kind of shortest amount of time in terms of actually getting the works completed.
Councillor Aaron?
Following on from that, the thing that sort of worries me in relation to traffic is the cabling, which is going along roads. Surely that means digging up a lot of roads, a lot of lengths of roads in the area over a period of time. It's going to be hell, isn't it, for residents, especially along very narrow roads where traffic is struggling to get by each other already. What's your reassurance on that matter?
Yeah, it will require very careful planning and engagement with the local communities and other stakeholders in terms of the timings for that. Typically, there will be kind of seasonal restrictions if there's other things going on that we wouldn't do those works within. Primarily, that's driven by highways in terms of what those periods would be if there's other works going on. So we'd make sure we manage it in a coordinated way to minimise the disruption as much as possible.
And I'd also add that a lot of these roads already have cabling ducts in them. So it would be a case of if there's cabling ducts already there, then the cables will be added to those ducts rather than digging up new trenches. So it will be quicker in certain locations. Excuse me.
I have two more questions of clarification, but if I could ask my own first. We heard from the parish councils that they were not content with the levels of communication and consultation that they received. And there's been little engagement with the parishes about community benefits. Could you just respond to that and tell us how you as a company would see community benefits that you can provide?
Yeah. Well, firstly, it's disappointing that they feel that that is the case. We met with the local community prior to submitting the application. We've also met during the course of the determination of the application. And on all of our projects, and specifically the solar projects, we made sure we engaged throughout the whole process. And as part of that, the community benefits form part of what we propose. We look to do it against kind of specific benefits and look to invite applications for it. So we would have a fund available for the local community. And then applications are made for that, and we've done this on our previous projects. And one of the speakers mentioned about installing solar panels on the local school. That's one project we've done. We've also looked at installing EV parking as part of this scheme. We've implemented welfare facilities on allotments. We've worked with a local nursery to put in raised beds. We've also done some work with scout groups and providing them with equipment for their scheme. So we look to manage it and invite kind of from the wide community in terms of what the different options are and kind of benefits, and then work with a group in terms of awarding out that funding to different opportunities.
So you're hoping to engage with the local community further to talk about
absolutely
work together.
As a business, we are committed to doing that.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Laming.
Thank you. Just following on from your remarks there, in my ward we have several solar farms, and they pay a contribution to the parish council every year for the life of the project. So I wonder if you've thought about that approach, because that's far more reasonable, I think.
Yeah, we're aware that some solar operators do it as a kind of £1 per megawatt to local communities. There's also a number of different parishes that this project crosses. Our approach to this is doing it in this way, but we would consider alternative options as well. We just felt it has been successful on some of our other schemes as well, and just allows some flexibility in terms of how those funds are applied as well.
Councillor Cunningham, did you have a question?
I did, but you asked, I'm afraid, my question.
fine. I think we've had quite enough. Oh, Councillor Small, do you have a question of clarification for our developers? Yes.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just back to the cabling. What is the length of cabling that would run along the public highway? Do you have that figure? And how much of that would then share? So, was it ducting? I think you mentioned.
I'm just
That's
wondering if
already
this is a question for our officer rather than for
I'm just trying to see how far it travels along the highway. It seems like they're very spread out. That was all. She
Do
did
you
mention
mind
it.
answering that? Do you have the details to answer that question?
I'm afraid I don't have the detailed
No, I
calculations
think
of
that's
how
a
long
reasonable
it's
question for
going.
our officers, so thank you very much. Okay, so if there's no more questions of clarification, thank you very much indeed for coming along and for answering all our questions. You may return to your seats. Thank you. So, Rose, we've heard quite a lot. Do you want to update us on anything before we come to members' questions?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just in regard to the biodiversity monitoring, we do have two recommended conditions, number 18 and number 22, regarding the details for the biodiversity net gain and a habitat management and monitoring plan. The way those two conditions work is that if a monitoring fee is required, it does allow us to agree a section 106 as part of the details and conditions process. So while they are being agreed, we can put section 106 into secure monitoring by the council as part of that.
So you're confident that those conditions effectively cover that concern that Councillor Cutler raised?
I do, yes. And then in regard to some of the soils management, condition 13 requires a soils management plan, so we can make sure that when they come back into use, those fields will still be as good in a condition, or if not better, because they've had a rest as well. So we'll have the opportunity to manage that as well.
And I noticed that we've got 26 conditions attached to this application, so quite a lot of work for everybody to do before anything happens. Okay. Was that all you wanted to add? Yes, thank you. So we move to questions on the report. I know it's a long report, but I will take questions on the whole report. So, Councillor White.
It's just a general question of clarification, really, regarding something that Councillor Cutler mentioned about a concept master plan. And I'm just thinking about the huge area that this covers, the impact, trying to measure the impact over several locations and the disruption. Is it not required that we have a sort of overarching strategic concept master plan so we can assess the whole impact of the whole scheme, if you see what I mean?
Chair, I mean, such a master plan would be helpful. We certainly, bigger schemes, we would want master plans, but it's not something that is a requirement whereby if we don't have it, we're not able to assess a planning application. We obviously assess what's before us. So it's beneficial, but it's not something that would be essential in terms. Obviously, Rose has been able to assess the application. So,
Councillor Langford-Smith.
Thank you, Chair. We're told that this project is 49.9 megawatts. 50 megawatts would make it a nationally significant infrastructure project.
Until December, when it goes up to 100.
Okay, but we're told that this generation will actually make 65 to 70. So does that not make it an NSIP?
Not as far as I understand it, and in fact, we are adding a condition to limit it to 49.9, aren't we?
So the details of what makes it or doesn't make an application a nationally significant infrastructure project is how much is channeled into the national grid. So at the moment, it would be 49.9 because that is the limitations of the substations. And that is why it didn't trigger a nationally significant infrastructure project application in this case. In regard to restricting it, there is a condition. Bear with me while I find it. So what I have proposed is condition 15, and this asks for the specific details of the maximum output in terms of watts of the proposed panels installed and the maximum output capacity of the inverters. So that confirms everything, and it gives the specifics so that if there is less being generated, then we can monitor that and see if there's a way for them to bring more forward to improve the public benefits. It also allows us to turn around and say that if they're actually proposing to distribute more, then we can say that's not acceptable because that is not what has been agreed. If it's more, then it should have been a nationally significant infrastructure project, and therefore it's not acceptable.
Until December, when it doubles.
True. But they would need potentially more in terms of substations at that point.
Yes, and it's in the conditions, so they'd have to apply for a new application.
Exactly. Yes.
To increase it. Right, Councillor Small.
Yes, I was still curious about the cabling and how far to link up all the different sites. However, I was also curious about plot 4. It was brought up that obviously this is subject to enforcement. It's already been to appeal where it was dismissed and it's been deemed to be needed to return to countryside. They removed trees, etc. Where do we stand with that? Because I'm kind of worried that if we were to allow a solar farm now being put on plot 4, that we're saying that we don't care what the appeal said.
Thank you, Chair. So plot 4 has a very complicated history. There is a number of ongoing enforcement investigations in that specific area. Specifically in regard to Upper Dagwell's copse, that was looked at by the council. We did prosecute. Unfortunately, that prosecution was not successful, and therefore, unfortunately, the majority of Upper Dagwell copse has now been removed and is, as you saw in the site photos, so there's very few trees remaining. The trees that can be retained are being retained as part of that. But essentially, yes, there is enforcement issues on plot 4 and they are ongoing. Essentially, if this was to be approved, all of those unauthorised developments would have to be removed regardless, and as part of the regeneration of that land with the solar panels on, we would then have it returned to agriculture, as at the end of the 40 years with the decommissioning, the land would then be returned to grassland as well. So we would end up having the agricultural land.
Is there significant extra tree planting and so on going in around parcel 4?
There is approximately, I think it's a 10-metre band of planting that goes all the way around the edging, if I remember correctly. It was on my slide previously. Unfortunately, I don't have it before me.
So at the end of 40 years, it will be returned to productive countryside. Can I ask about the soil and what happens to it in those 40 years? So is it a good thing to leave the land effectively fallow for 40 years?
I am by no means a scientist. My understanding is, in general terms, if the land doesn't need to work hard to produce a lot, then the nutrients that are generated will be retained and increase within the land. Therefore, when it comes back into production, it would have a large pantry, shall we say, of existing nutrients that could be put into new cereal production or other farming methods, depending on what the farmer wanted to do with them, as my understanding.
Okay. And can you just talk about the site selection? Because one of the parish councils said that there appeared to be no alternative site selection process. And I just wondered if you knew if there was a process that we expect companies to go through to prove that why they've chosen particular sites, or is that not something that we expect?
Thank you, Chair. So there was a section on site selection in the resubmission. There was the developer did go into quite a lot of detail about how these sites were chosen. Specifically for solar farms and energy generation or retention schemes, there is a limit in regard to the location, because they have to be within a certain distance of a national grid connection point. In the case of Titchfield Lane, there is one about, I'd say 500 metres away from field 10, which is the national grid location within Botley. And then we have the pylons, which are the local network location where this proposal is asking to be attached to. So all of these sites are within that, I believe it's 3 kilometres at maximum that it has to be within. So this site, all the parcels are within that. They try to look at sites where the landowner is willing to give their land over to solar generation. They also look at the orientation and any other restricting features such as trees and things that would cause overshadowing. So they have gone into quite a lot of detail into looking at why these fields specifically were considered appropriate.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more questions? Councillor Pett.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I got a little confused to your answer on the previous question. You were talking about the loss of Dagwell's copse. I thought the question was about the parcel off Biddonfield Lane, parcel 9, which is the subject of the enforcement action at the moment. And I thought the question was, at the end of this, how will parcel 9 be restored? Will it be to simply as it is now, or to as it should have been now?
Forgive me, I heard parcel 4 and I didn't realise it was for parcel 9 as well. So in regard to parcel 9, I have been in contact with Hampshire Enforcement. I've not had any sort of response from Hampshire Enforcement as to whether or not they are looking to issue an enforcement notice. As it stands, there is no enforcement notice in place for parcel 9. Therefore, what the applicant has done is submit a contaminated land report, and that has been conditioned. And we have also asked for validation reports to make sure that anything there would be suitable if it was to come back into production to make food afterwards. So that has been conditioned and will be looked at by our environmental health officer at the time. If there is any other recommendations to be put into place, then we would make those as part of the agreement of that condition. My understanding is that due to the current lack of enforcement on the site, there's very little we can do, so it would remain at the increased site level. And as part of the construction management plan, I have asked for updated levels to reflect that as well.
Councillor Laney.
Thank you. When we come on to the conditions, and I'm thinking of condition 3, part A, we're asking for all the associated solar panels above ground to be removed. Now that's could render the whole of the site unusable for some agricultural purposes. Surely we should be asking for the removal of all the subsequent parts, whether they're above ground or below ground.
That could be updated if you propose it so that above and below ground works could be included.
Yes, I would propose that, please.
Is that suggestion agreed, members? Okay, thank you. Let's agree that and add it to the condition, please. Okay, have we finished with questions on the report? One more, Councillor Pett.
Sorry, Chair, thank you. One more. Going back to the length of time of the construction phase and the amount of disruption on Titchfield Lane and the A334 and so on, I don't think I quite got a definitive answer from the speakers earlier on. What's your working assumption for how long there will be significant disruption on those local roads?
Thank you, Chair. Bear with me, I'm just perusing condition 12 to double check if there is a requirement within that. No, I haven't included it. So I don't have those details before me. What I could suggest is amending proposed condition 12 to include a programme of construction phasing to be submitted as part of this the construction management plan, and that will give us a good idea of exactly how long it's going to take to build out. It could take up to 5 years as indicated, but that would depend on whether or not it's been phased. But my understanding is that it could depend on the type of phasing and what PVs would be required. So they need to do a little bit more work before they can fully understand how long it's going to take for the build out to take. So at present, my recommendation would be to include an additional bullet point within condition 12 for a phasing or construction phasing plan to be submitted.
Would that be helpful, Councillor Pett?
I think so. What I suppose I'm getting at is that there must be some sort of limit, reasonable limit to the amount of disruption in the local road network for this.
I mean, presumably that it's not going to be every road that's impacted every day for 5 years, particularly if things are phased. It's going to sort of move around depending on which particular field they're working on.
Yeah,
and maybe that would.
I would just assume that a lot of people do travel up Titchfield Lane, turn left onto the 334. So, you know, for a lot of journeys, that will be a lot of disruption for a lot of time. I just wonder how we might go about, easing the pain, as it were, for that over the construction phase.
All I can really say is that that aspect has been looked at by the highways engineers, and they've found to be they've found that the proposed level of use during the construction phase to be acceptable and within the limits of the current highways network. They have recommended the use of smaller vehicles and introducing sort of minivans so that the workers will go to one of the construction compounds and then go by minibus to reduce the amount of traffic during the day. So there are a number of proposals to limit the impact during the working day. I do understand where you're coming from, but all I can really say is that the highways engineer has reviewed this and they have found it to be within acceptable parameters.
So are we going to include the phasing condition? Would that be helpful? I think that would be helpful too. So if that's agreed by members, is that agreed? Agreed. Let's add that bullet point to that particular condition 12. Did you have a question? No. Right. If we have no more questions, we move to debate. Who would like to kick us off? Well, I will then. This area was consciously excluded from the South Downs National Park, and there was a reason for that. And whilst the park is objecting and is within, I think it's 100 metres or 50 metres or something at the corner of one of these fields, I've had a good look round, and we had a site visit and we drove round and looked at as many public viewpoints as we could of the fields, although it is complicated. And I think that the planning balance is in favour of supporting this application, although it is a difficult balance to assess given the complication of the numbers of fields involved and the fact that, you know, public views are actually quite limited, but that is obviously, you know, why these fields have been chosen. I do think that actually spreading it about rather than having it in one enormous area of solar panels, it does in a lot of cases make it easier to mitigate the impact on the wider landscape in terms of, you know, planting and so on. You can hide smaller fields than enormous ones. So from that point of view, I actually don't dislike the sort of piecemeal approach to this application in terms of the smaller fields. I do think that in the long run, it will be good for the soil and good for the area underneath, and if they can be properly grazed, so that there is some agricultural continuing life for these fields as well as the solar panel and the solar generation, I think that would be good. I'm disappointed that the parishes are not happy with the level of engagement and the discussion about community benefits with the company, but I understand that the company are happy to talk to you in an ongoing way, and I would hope that that will happen and that many local community organisations will come forward with suggestions and proposals for solar panels and other activities that the company can support them with, and I would hope that that will happen, and I'm sure that it will, in fact. I think that the question of whether or not the assessment of the quality of the land is up to date is a good point from Councillor Cutler, and I do hope that the government will take note of that and will help councils who are facing this across the whole country question of whether land should be used for food production or should be used for power production, and the competing claims of both mean that it is very difficult unless we've got a proper assessment of the quality of the land that we're talking about. But I understand from the officer's report that none of the land that is being proposed for these solar panels is of the best quality, which reassures me. So as I say, in terms of the planning balance and the importance the vital importance of being able to generate our own electricity in this green and sustainable way, I will be supporting this application. Councillor Langford-Smith.
Thank you, Chair. As members will know, I do have concerns regarding huge swathes of our countryside being covered in solar panels. For this application, there appears to have been little community engagement and no certainty of community benefit. Parcels 6, 7 and 8 comprise almost 40% of this proposal, but this is also the best and most versatile agricultural land. Parcels 6 and 7 are north facing on a significant slope, requiring the panels to be spaced quite far apart. This actually then uses up more land than a more suitable site would use. I echo the landscape officer's concern in that it isn't possible for this project to not detract from the enjoyment of the countryside, and that despite the landscaping proposed, the harm cannot be mitigated or removed in the long term. I don't believe that this project has been considered in view of the other projects that are coming forward in the area, so we haven't been able to consider the cumulative effect. I also query the sustainability and green credentials in terms of offsetting the energy generation versus the recyclability of the panels, which can't be recycled at this point in time, and also the loss of valuable crop production to ensure food certainty. So I will listen to other members' comments before coming to my conclusion.
Councillor Lamy.
Yes, I concur with Councillor Langford-Smith on this to a large extent. This is valuable agricultural land as far as Hampshire standards are concerned. And I think that we should also be taking into account the community benefit, which we haven't seen any concrete proposals on, whereas in other cases in my ward, this has all been settled before it came to planning. I think that this solar farm is larger than is necessary because of its being split up and it's losing its efficiency. And I will listen to what everybody else has said before I make my mind up.
Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Chair. The guidance from NPPF is that solar farms should be located in one larger contiguous site and avoid best and most versatile farming land. What we have here is an extensive application, disparate and invasive, and has been cobbled together with a piecemeal and scattergun approach. The applicant is sucking up tranches of best and most versatile productive agricultural land across a wide landscape. It seems this is done to simply maximize the generating capacity just below the 50 kilowatt limit. But in doing so, it is guilty of spewing industrial detritus and infrastructure across a path, destroying the landscape across the absolute swathe of rural Hampshire. Again, I have problems with this application, and I shall listen to others' contributions before making my decision.
Thank you. Councillor White.
So, I mean, obviously we've been asked to support this for the need for renewable energy to meet the carbon reduction targets. I welcome the increase in biodiversity that this brings. It is a substantial change to the landscape, that's undeniable, and it's in several different places. However, some of those landscape changes are improvements in terms of the screening and things. I was worried about the cumulative effect of the developments in that area, particularly at the construction phase, but I think with the condition that we put in the construction management plan should mitigate that. But however, I have personally found it really difficult to make a judgment on the impact over so many different sites, and I do feel that although we had a site visit to parcels 6 and 7, we didn't get to see in detail the other parcels. So I am really struggling to judge the overall impact on this area that I know really well because I live quite close to this area. So I will listen to other members.
Councillor Gordon-Smith.
Yes, I've listened to the various arguments. The point about site selection is that, as was outlined, there's quite rigid parameters about which sites are suitable, and it obviously hinges on the fact that the landowner is prepared to let his land be used. And in all planning issues, everything tends to hinge on that. You know, with new housing, it's only on land that someone's prepared to sell to a developer that can be used. So I'm not quite sure if I can really argue it's not ideal. Well, it isn't ideal, but that happens to be what's available. One of the problems we had with looking at the site is that they're not readily accessible from public footpaths. We saw one at site 7, I think it was, but elsewhere they're much more secluded and hidden away. And as Councillor White said, actually up by the Shedfield Equestrian Centre, it's not very fine countryside around. There's a bit of an improvement. I'm not a great enthusiast for PVA sites. I don't think they look wonderful, but I think given the circumstances we're in, I shall be voting to support this.
Councillor Aaron?
Yes, I think, thank you, Chair, that it is a very complex scheme, and I think it has us all quite challenged by it. And there are sort of very fine arguments about, you know, clearly we need more renewable energy, and, you know, we in Hampshire have to play our part in that and want to play our part in that. And, you know, saying you support it, but, you know, you can't bear it in your backyard. I mean, I totally get it. I'd probably be the same, but we can't, if everybody says that, we won't get any built. So, you know, my feeling is we should try to mitigate all the disadvantages as far as possible. And I think quite a lot of the conditions, existing conditions and proposed conditions, do help with that. I was intrigued with the idea from Councillor Cutler of having an independent monitor paid for by the developers, but I don't know whether that's something that could be. But anyway, I know the case officer has said that she thinks the monitoring as provided for here is enough, so maybe it is enough. It's just I think we're all uneasy about the spread out nature of the sites, but on the other hand, I take the Chair's point that actually that's in some way more manageable in terms of views, etc. And then yes, the disruption will be, you know, significant over a long period of time, but again, you know, it is possible to phase these things in such a way that you can limit the damage there. So, you know, really a very difficult decision indeed, but I think I veer towards supporting the application. But I'd be interested to hear what others say.
Councillor Small?
Thank you, Chair. I think I agree with Councillor Langford-Smith and her points raised earlier, and those of Councillor White. One of the things I just wanted to mention as well on top of that is obviously saying that some of the views will be improved. We also know that some of these areas, certainly where there's some unlawful or unregulated business going on, if we allow a solar farm to then be situated on there, what's going to happen, as we all know, and I suppose we're going to be told we can't consider it, but that unauthorised activity will just be moved to another field and destroy more of our countryside. So I'm not sure the thought of tidying up these fields is a good enough reason for me to want to support it at this time.
Councillor Pett.
Thank you, Chair. It's messy, isn't it, this one? It's a simple agglomeration of parcels of land available to the applicant, but that of itself doesn't make it you know, something not worth supporting. I agree with you, Chair, that in terms of the setting of the national park, this really has little bearing on that at all. Although, yes, 60 metres to 100 metres from the park boundary, it isn't visible to any significant degree from the park at all. I have to take advice on the value of the land as agricultural land. I'm no agrarian. And, you know, if a farmer tells me it's not the best agricultural land, then I have no choice but to believe that. And I would agree with you, Chair, that it's not the highest landscape quality either. All of that said, I do have real concern on the disruption the construction phase will give the local community down there. And if we can do our best to make the conditions as watertight as possible to minimise that, then that would be good. I also know, you know, we talked about 3 kilometres. Having looked at my OS app just now, it is literally 3 kilometres from plot 1 to plot 10 in this. It's right on the limits of what I could find acceptable, but I think, having listened to all the arguments, I will be supporting the officer's recommendation. But I would have to say it's right on the edge of what I would find acceptable.
Right, so I think we've all contributed. So we need to make the decision. So this application with the amended conditions, as we've described them, is recommended for approval. So can I see all those in favour of approving, please? And those against? So that application is approved. Thank you very much, everybody. See you in a month's time. That's the end of today's meeting. Thank you.